So with that, I'm going to attempt a couple of demos. Yeah, if you don't mind. So the two things I want to demo here are the cross-site request forgery attack, and I'll kind of show an example of how that works, as well as kind of an interesting way to make it a little more weaponizable. And then I'm going to also attempt to demonstrate the SSL renegotiation vulnerability and injecting administrative commands. Now that one, I should caution, I've had some issues getting it to work in the VM because I'm basically trying to man in the middle myself. Wish me luck. We good?
You might have to run it on the other screen somehow. You know what I'm saying?
What, like look at the projector?
I can't close.
All right, if we can just get our... That's 2.
So it won't let me clone it to you.
Okay.
So you just have to
look over here. Okay, this is gonna be fun.
So.
All right, so I guess we can't clone the screen, so I'm going to have to.
You can drag it.
Yeah. Wow, this is gonna be fun. So we can't mirror the monitor, so I'm going to end up trying to do this looking over my shoulder.
You can do it, Joe.
Yeah, man. Oh, wait. Okay. So what I've got here is an SSH session to this little 5505 ASA that's sitting up here. This is on the lower end of the ASA line, but it's still a pretty capable small office, home office firewall. And it only costs a couple $100. It runs the same code as all the other ASAs, so it can be a really great testing and development platform. I'm going to show you here the current configuration, if I can. Sorry, this is hard to drive this way. Let me, I'll let you all look at my back so I can see. Yeah. Okay, so my SSH session got killed. I can't even see the bottom there.
Because you have 2 scroll bars.
Yeah.
Throw it to the screen again.
What's that?
Can you go full screen?
Yeah, let me try that.
Nope.
No, full screen doesn't work on the projector. Well, this stinks. Okay, so there's the bottom. Okay, so all I really want to show from the command line is current users. So we've got 2 users. There's one that's my name, and there's one that's just admin. That's our admin super secret that we were talking about before. And what we have here is a page that demos the Csrf attack. So while everybody's looking at this lolcat, there's some script running in the background here. This script uses Jeremiah Grossman's CSS history searching. One of the tricks in weaponizing a CSRF exploit against ASA is that you have to be able to identify the name, the URL that the victim would be using to access it. People don't often have DNS names pointing to their firewalls, so they may access it by IP. So what this page does, it's got some JavaScript that basically creates a link to every IP in a given class C. I've done this for up to class Bs, and it works. It just takes a few seconds to run. It's also checking for a few names. You might have a name record called VPN or SSL VPN that points to your firewall. So we're basically searching for, searching the history by adding links to the page and then checking their color in CSS to see if they've been visited. So if we visited an IP and that IP, the URL to that IP contains asdm.jnlp, then we know that that's an ASA that's running ASDM. We still don't know that the client has connected to it, with their credentials, but we can at least be sure it's an ASA. So here you can see, this is tested a few different names and several different IP addresses. It went through the whole class C, and you can scroll down there, and it found one. So here's the URL that was cached, in my browser history, showing that I launched ASDM from this IP. This little Cisco image is just an image linked from from the ASA itself. So this is just kind of further confirmation that this is an ASA I'm looking at. This broken link here is my ASDM, my CSRF payload. So it's an image tag that just runs a command against the ASA through the HTTP request. Now, if we go back to our SSH session, you'll see now that I ran that, we've got a new user on the firewall. So just by visiting that page, that cross-site request forgery kicks in and uses my cache credentials to create an administrative user on the firewall. This was with no interaction on the client's part. As you saw, I just refreshed the Java, the browser page, and this was created.
It was hard to miss, but when he just refreshed that page, it launched the CSRF, added a new user to that firewall. The CSS history trick would be what you'd use to actually target an administrator within the enterprise, because as an outsider, you may not know the URL and the IP address of that Cisco ASA. So we basically iterated through all possibilities and discovered the location of the ASA within his browser history.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So that's basically the CSRF demo. I'm going to try that TLS reneg thing. It's going to be hard without being able to see. Maybe we should just come back to that if we're not running out of time.
Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, the SSL renegotiation, I've had a little bit of issue with it on the VM, and given that I'm going to be looking over my shoulder typing, I'm not sure it's worth attempting. So I'm going to let
if we got time, we'll try it.
Yeah.
Let's hand it off to Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to let Dan continue on with his portion of the talk, and if there's time remaining at the end, we'll come back and demo that. Oh yeah, sorry.
No problem.
I'm sorry, what was that? This one, I think I've got it on 804 right now. Can you do a show ver on there maybe? Or are you trying to switch over? Yeah, I think I've got it on 804 just because some of the later versions fix the ACL bypass that I was working on as well. But essentially, I haven't looked at 8.3 yet, so I can't say for sure how 8.3 does its authorization. But every other version of ASDM, ASA that I've looked at has the basic auth issue, and that's really what makes this possible. So I believe this is present on every currently shipping version. But again, I haven't actually confirmed that on 8.3, so there's a caveat there. Go ahead. Yeah. So the question was, do the session tokens ever expire? There really is no session token. All there is this basic auth, and that's just handled by the browser. So as long as you keep your browser, your browser process running, that's going to remain cached. So the only way to clear that is to close your browser, kill the process, and restart it. When I did the Csrf attack here, I was actually using credentials that I entered this morning, a few hours before this talk, and they're still valid. So there's no timeout for that. Go ahead.
Good morning. Before I jump in, I just want to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Dan King. I'm a security engineer with SecureWorks. In that role, I conduct network and web penetration tests and do PCI auditing for large retail chains and financial organizations. I want to quickly go over the material that I want to talk about today. The very first thing I want to talk about is the implicit trust that we place in our vendors and their products. I'm going to follow that up with speaking a little bit about McAfee's Network Security Manager, some of its features, and I'm going to segue into using cross-site scripting to completely exploit their Network Security Manager. Right after that, I want to start talking a little bit about the Cisco ASA. I'm not going to beat it too much because Jeff pretty much filled you in on all the details of that. And I want to show how using HTTP response splitting against Cisco ASA is a clientless web VPN. You can steal their user credentials. And I want to follow that up with some ideas on how we can kind of do things a little bit better. When we buy products that are designed to help us secure our networks, we naturally assume that they're secure, right? I mean, they are security products. Well, oftentimes this isn't the case. They're subject to the same issues and pitfalls as all software. They have rigorous software life cycles. They have pressure from the business to get to market. And they have demand for new features constantly. This is just a few of the many reasons why making secure software is hard, right? When we talk about new services and new features, we also have to remember that's new threats. For the more complexity a single device has, the threat surface just gets larger and larger. For example, firewalls that now do deep packet inspection, we need to make sure that they're not vulnerable to malformed packets. These devices that we're trusting implicitly are within very sensitive areas in our network. They're the gatekeepers and watchdogs of our servers and data. We need to rely on these devices, and we need to trust them. McAfee has a few products that are designed to kind of help us, secure our networks. They're IPS systems, NAC systems, HID systems. One of the large problems with these types of systems is management. So that's why McAfee created their Network Security Manager. Basically what it does is allows you to remote control all of their IPS systems, NACs, and whatnot, and also collect all the data so that way an analyst can make sound decisions or start an investigation of possible breach. The system runs on Windows 2003, and it has a very nice web GUI and Java component, so it makes it really, really simple for administration. We at SecurityWorks use this exact tool to manage sensors in our client networks. So I thought it would be a really good idea that maybe we should test this and make sure it is what it's supposed to be doing. And it didn't take long, and I found out that the login page was vulnerable to cross-site scripting. If I had to say what web vulnerability exploited trust the most, I would have to say cross-site scripting. It's an injection-style attack that allows you to inject code, generally JavaScript, into trusted websites. And the power here really is when the user navigates to your website or whatever, they trust that content is really coming from you. And by leveraging cross-site scripting, you take advantage of that trust, and you can make that client do almost anything you want. Grab their keystrokes, their cookies, session token. They have no idea it's happening. The Network Security Manager is vulnerable to this, as I stated. The login form has two hidden form objects that are not validated at all for their content. So let's take a look on how I leverage this to take over an admin session. Since I knew the page was already vulnerable to cross-site scripting, I just needed to figure out how to get access. So the logical step would be to phish the administrators. They're pretty gullible. I just needed to decide on what I wanted to execute. Knowing a little bit about JavaScript, I knew that the image object was a great way to smuggle data out of websites. So then now the next step was to determine, well, can I get to the keys to the kingdom? Is that session data available to me? And I noticed that the web server component does not set the HTTP only flag on their session cookie, which allowed JavaScript total access to this cookie value. So now I know I can get data out of it. Now I know I can access all the data I need.